Hey, how about we go out to celebrate our anniversary next weekend? I, Emily, suggested to Josh, my husband, hoping for some much-needed quality time together. His response was disheartening.
I've promised to spend the day with Mom.
His indifferent attitude left me wondering, how long would I continue to be marginalized in this relationship? I was determined to address this issue once and for all. My name is Emily, a 27-year-old professional, married to Josh, who is also my age. We met in college while participating in different mountaineering clubs but bonded over our shared love for the great outdoors at a joint event. Our relationship blossomed from there. After graduating, I pursued a career in law while Josh found his calling in the corporate world. Our love for hiking and visiting mountaineering shops kept our relationship strong even as we navigated the early stages of our careers. 3 years into our jobs, as we both became more settled, Josh proposed to me during a sunrise hike. It was an unexpected and emotional moment, with my tears glistening in the morning sun like the gem on the ring he presented to me. I eagerly accepted. Following our engagement, we visited Josh's family to formally introduce me. His family consisted of his mother, Margaret, and his older sister, Sarah. Josh's father had passed away in a tragic accident when Josh was just a young boy, leaving Margaret to raise her children all by herself. Josh revered his mother for her strength and dedication, a trait I admired in him. Sarah, having moved out immediately after high school, had limited contact with the family. However, she made an exception for our introduction, which hinted at the complex dynamics within Josh's family, dynamics that would soon test the strength of our relationship. Upon entering the cozy living room, I was warmly greeted by Margaret, Josh's mother. The pleasantries soon gave way to an onslaught of questions about my age, my parents' professions, my college, and my career. The most probing question of all was whether I intended to resign from my job upon marrying her son. Each question felt like walking through a minefield, trying to navigate my answers carefully without causing offense. Margaret's reaction to my commitment to my career was anything but supportive. The air thickened with her palpable disapproval when I voiced my decision to continue working post-marriage.
You're not quitting your job.
She probed further, skepticism evident in her voice.
How do you plan to support Josh and manage household duties if you're both working?
Her words left me stumbling for a response, barely managing to utter an apology. Josh, sensing the tension, quickly came to my defense, emphasizing the fulfillment my job brought me and our mutual desire to build a secure future. Despite his assurances, Margaret's discontent was unmistakable, leaving me to ponder whether I had already fallen out of her good graces. As we prepared to leave, Sarah, Josh's sister, pulled me aside for a private word. Her warning about Josh's excessive attachment to his mother and her own struggles with their overly close relationship resonated with me, especially as she offered her support and shared her contact details. Despite the initial unease Margaret's endearments towards Josh had caused, I hadn't considered it a significant concern, assuming that our separate living arrangements would mitigate any potential issues. Our wedding proceeded without a hitch, marking the beginning of our life together as a married couple. Josh's willingness to share in household responsibilities, given our dual income setup, was a testament to our partnership. Our weekends were filled with shared activities and outings, from nature hikes to leisurely shopping excursions. Work and home life are both going smoothly. At that time, I was blissfully happy. After a while, I began to feel unwell. I had a suspicion, so I went to the hospital for a checkup. As I suspected, I was pregnant. That evening, I reported to Josh when he came back home. You know, Josh, I'm pregnant.
Really? Am I going to be a father?
Josh was also delighted. During my pregnancy, the severity of my morning sickness meant I spent much of my time at home lying down, trying to cope with the overwhelming nausea. Josh, I really appreciate you taking care of the household chores. I feel terrible for not being able to help, I expressed, feeling a mix of gratitude and guilt.
Hey, it's completely understandable given how tough your morning sickness has been.
Josh reassured me with kindness in his voice. In the beginning, he was truly supportive, spending his days off at home helping with chores and accompanying me on essential shopping trips, making those early days of pregnancy bearable. However, as time went on, Josh began to spend more and more of his free time at his mother, Margaret's house. One day, hoping for his company, I asked, "Josh, you're off tomorrow, right? I really need your help with shopping." To which he replied, somewhat apologetically,
Sorry, I've already promised to spend the day with Mom. She needs me since she doesn't drive. Let's plan for another day, okay?
Although I agreed, hoping for a different outcome next time, the pattern continued. Josh's commitments to Margaret seemed to always take precedence, leaving our plans perpetually postponed.
Mom needs me to help her with something.
Or,
Mom's feeling lonely.
he would say before heading to her place. It became a familiar refrain, one that highlighted where his priorities lay. Each time Josh chose his mother's needs over ours, I couldn't help but feel a growing sense of isolation and disappointment. Is it Margaret again? I found myself pondering, struggling with the realization that my husband's loyalty to his mother overshadowed his commitments to our budding family. I had been looking forward to shopping for baby and maternity items together, hoping to make these preparations a shared experience. However, Josh's unwavering commitment to Margaret, even in light of my vulnerability and our need for solidarity, left me feeling sidelined. Was he always such a mama's boy? This thought echoed in my mind, bringing back memories of Sarah's warnings before our marriage. I regretted not heeding her advice more closely, as Josh's frequent refrain of "Mom says" began to sow seeds of doubt about our union. Josh never suggested I accompany him on these visits to his family home, a decision I secretly appreciated. From the outset, Margaret made it clear she disapproved of me, often greeting me with thinly veiled criticisms. It seemed she harbored resentment for taking her son away, a sentiment exacerbated by my decision to continue working after marriage. When we announced our pregnancy, her response was pointedly critical.
Emily, you're going to quit your job now, right?
My assertion that I planned to return to work after maternity leave was met with outright hostility.
What are you talking about? A mother who isn't present during her child's early years is a failure, not just as a wife, but as a mother too. Poor Josh.
Avoiding Margaret meant escaping her constant barbs, but it did little to alleviate the loneliness I felt as Josh's absences became more frequent. As my due date loomed closer, the anticipation and nervousness about meeting our baby for the first time grew. However, amidst these feelings, Josh dropped a bombshell.
This weekend, Mom wants us to join her for a spa day nearby. I've promised to go.
I was taken aback, but the baby could come any day now, and I really need you here. Can't you tell her no? His response was disappointing.
I've already booked it, and Mom's really looking forward to it. It's close by, so it should be fine.
Despite my pleas, Josh seemed unmoved by my concerns and went ahead with his plans, leaving me feeling alone and vulnerable. As I watched Josh leave, a sense of abandonment washed over me, leaving me with nothing but a heavy heart and deep sighs. That night, an unexpected pain surged through my abdomen, followed by a warm sensation that left no room for doubt. My water had broken. Panic set in as I dialed Josh's number repeatedly, only to be met with voicemail each time. With my family out of state and unable to be by my side quickly, I reached out to Sarah, the only person nearby whom I could rely on. Throughout my pregnancy, Sarah had become an unexpected pillar of support, especially given her own strained relationship with Margaret, Josh's domineering mother. Sarah, living just a short distance from us, had often stepped in to help with errands or just to lend an ear, filling the gap left by Josh's frequent absences. When I called her, frantic and unsure, she didn't hesitate to rush over and escort me to the hospital, her presence a comforting reassurance in the midst of chaos. "Thank you, Sarah," I managed to say, gratitude mixed with a myriad of other emotions.
"Where's Josh?"
she asked, concern clear in her tone. "He's at the spa with Margaret. I can't get a hold of him," I replied, the situation's absurdity not lost on me. Sarah's frustration was very clear.
"He chose a spa day over being with his nearly due wife. His priorities. And Margaret, I'm speechless. Don't worry, Emily. You're not alone. I'm here for you."
Sarah assured me, her resolve firm.
"I'll take care of contacting Josh and Margaret,"
she promised, stepping out to make the call. I later learned about this phone call conversation with Sarah and her mom that began seemingly innocent.
"Hello, is this Mom?"
Sarah asked, her voice tinged with a hint of surprise.
Oh, Sarah, it's quite rare for you to call me. Do you need something?
Margaret's response was curious yet welcoming. Sarah's request was simple.
"I need to speak with Josh. He's with you, isn't he?"
But what came next was unexpected.
Josh? No, he's not here with me. Ever since he married, he hardly visits, and he's been told not to come to our apartment. It must be Emily's influence. She's such an unpleasant daughter-in-law.
Margaret disclosed with a tone of disapproval. Sarah, taken aback, could only muster a shocked,
"He's not. I see."
As she returned to the hospital room, her expression clouded with concern. In the hours that followed, I was blessed with the birth of a healthy baby girl, a moment of joy amidst the brewing storm. The next day brought a visit from Margaret and Josh, an encounter that was anything but ordinary. Upon laying eyes on her granddaughter, Margaret couldn't help but express her disappointment.
Oh, a girl. That's unfortunate for the wife of the eldest son. You have to try for a boy next time.
Her words, sharp and unwelcome, lingered in the air as she departed without another glance at her grandchild. Margaret, that's just awful. I couldn't help but lament. Josh, ever the mediator, attempted to soothe the situation.
I'm sorry. My mom really hoped for a grandson. Please forgive her. I should be going back now.
The conversation then shifted to my upcoming discharge day. Eager for his support, I asked, Josh, you're off on my discharge day, right? Can you come? His reply,
I should be able to make it.
offered a glimmer of hope. That's wonderful. I'll be waiting. I responded, filled with anticipation. However, as the discharge day arrived, Josh was nowhere to be found. Calls went unanswered and time ticked by, leaving me stranded and alone. When Josh finally picked up the phone, his excuse was all too familiar.
Sorry. My mom needed me to run some errands, and I can't make it. Could you take a taxi home?
Once again, Margaret's needs had taken precedence, leaving me to wonder about the state of our relationship. Feeling my connection with Josh wane, I reached out to Sarah for assistance, who agreed without hesitation. Sarah, I can't tell you how sorry I am for putting you through all this trouble. I apologized, feeling a weight on my shoulders.
Don't sweat it, really. It's fine. Besides, I've been meaning to have a chat with you, Emily.
Sarah responded, her voice carrying a mix of concern and urgency that couldn't be ignored. There was something about Sarah's demeanor that hinted at unease, a complexity in her expression that spoke volumes of the gravity of what she was about to reveal. It was during our drive to the upscale apartment complex that Sarah decided to break the silence with a revelation that would shake the very foundation of my world.
Emily, I've been wrestling with whether or not to tell you this, but seeing as he hasn't shown up today either, I feel it's time to come clean.
She began, her voice hesitant yet determined. Sarah took a deep breath before she unfolded the truth.
You see, Emily, on the day you were in labor, Josh wasn't actually at a spa with Mom as he had claimed. I did a little digging and talked to Mom. It turns out, Josh has barely visited home since you two tied the knot.
She continued, each word carefully chosen, yet each one landing like a blow.
But he had you believe he was spending time with Mom, right? If he wasn't with Mom, then where was he?
The questions hung in the air, heavy with implications. Could it be? Has Josh been lying all this time? Is there a chance he's been unfaithful? The possibility alone was enough to send shivers down my spine.
While there's no hard evidence, the thought has crossed my mind. The undeniable truth is that he's been lying. I'm so sorry to have such a brother.
Sarah confessed, her apology sincere yet filled with a sense of helplessness. No, I appreciate your honesty. I managed to say, though the news had left me in shock. In the days that followed, Josh's excuses to leave home, always citing visits to Margaret, became all too frequent. The realization that he had been lying and neglecting not just me, but our daughter as well, was unforgivable. Driven by a need for the truth, I reached out to a private investigator, determined to uncover evidence of his betrayal. Josh, perhaps too confident in his deceit, didn't take long to slip up. With our wedding anniversary just around the corner, I made one last attempt to salvage what was left of our relationship. Hey, how about we celebrate our anniversary with a special day out on your next day off? I proposed, hope mingling with desperation in my voice. But the reply I received was a cold,
I've already promised to spend the day with Mom.
"That's it, then?" I thought to myself, feeling the last strands of affection for Josh vanish into thin air. It was time for a divorce. On our anniversary, I left our daughter with my sister-in-law Sarah and stealthily followed my husband, Josh, to see where he was headed. Josh entered a stylish, popular cafe. I quietly took a seat behind him, making sure he wouldn't notice me. Minutes later, Josh's affair partner, Linda, appeared, greeting him with,
"Sorry I'm late, Josh.
They immediately started a joyful conversation. Linda suggested,
Our recent trip to the spa resort was so much fun. Where should we go next? Maybe another relaxing spa?"
Josh responded.
Yeah, maybe we should look for a more secluded spot next time.
At that moment, I placed my hand on Josh's shoulder and asked, "Mind if I join in on that plan?" Josh, taken aback, stammered.
Emily, why are you here?
His smile froze instantly. "I can't believe you broke our promise, lied, and had an affair with this woman," I said. Josh desperately tried to defend himself.
No, it's not like that. She's just a friend.
But I firmly stated, excuses won't work, and presented him with evidence from a private investigator. Faced with overwhelming proof, Josh had no choice but to admit his wrongdoing.
I'm sorry. Since you got pregnant, you stopped paying attention to me, and I felt lonely. That's when I met her on a hike, and she was as kind to me as a mother would be.
Josh confessed. So, just like a mother, huh? I thought bitterly, accepting that our marriage was over. I pulled out a filled-out divorce form from my bag and declared, "All right, let's get a divorce. Thanks for the short time we had together." Before walking away, I sought refuge in my sister-in-law Sarah's apartment for the time being and, through a lawyer, began the divorce proceedings. Eventually, I demanded alimony and child support from Josh and also sought damages from Linda. Since Linda was married, her husband naturally filed for damages as well. Linda, who was unemployed, had Josh covering all her expenses, leading to a situation where he couldn't afford his apartment rent anymore and decided to sell it. He ended up seeking shelter at his parents' house. However, Margaret was not welcoming. She found the idea of Linda, a woman of their age, being involved with Josh, quite disturbing. Margaret made her feelings clear by saying,
"It's creepy that someone your age is with Josh. You're the only one who thinks you have the right to call him honey. Now leave."
And she even went as far as throwing salt at her to drive her away. Josh's affair partner did indeed have a maternal vibe given she was the same age as her boyfriend's mother. When Sarah and I learned about this, we couldn't help but feel a sense of shock and disbelief. Josh tried reaching out to Sarah for support, but understandably, Sarah did not welcome him and turned him away without hesitation. With no place left to turn, Josh was forced to rent a modest apartment where he began to live a frugal life. Tragically, it seems Linda later developed dementia. The financial burden of her care has reportedly left them struggling immensely. There was a moment when Josh reached out to me for help, but I respectfully declined and made sure to block his number. I felt no obligation to assist him. Meanwhile, I had been staying with Sarah through the divorce proceedings. After everything was settled, I moved back to my parents' home. I am deeply thankful for Sarah's support during those tough times. Despite the physical distance between us now, Sarah and I continue to stay in touch. My parents have been incredibly supportive, and under their loving gaze, my daughter and I are leading a content and joyful life.